Welcome to bonus content, Lesson 4's guided exercises. In this video, we'll walk through exercises covering concepts from the last lesson. Again, there are 3 steps for each exercise. I will present an exercise, pause the video, and try the exercise. Then, I will walk you through the solution. Some exercises are practice, when the exercise is the first to cover a concept, and the other exercises are quizzes. You should try testing your knowledge with these. Let's hop right in. Navigate to repl.it/languages/python3. You'll see a page similar to the one on the right. I've minimized a few of the tabs so that you can only see the interpreter on the right-hand half of the screen. Now, let's go ahead and start off with question number 1. This is a practice question. Define a list with 3 numbers. Assign the list to a variable called numbers. Give it a minute to try. Now we can define numbers is equal to and a list with 3 numbers, and I'm going to write 4, 5, and 2. Hit enter. We're going to type in numbers to check that our list was defined successfully. Hit enter, and there we go. Question number 2. This is now a quiz question. Define a list with the numbers 4, 2, and 7 in any order. Assign a list to a variable called numbers2. Give it a minute to try. And now here's the solution. Numbers2 is equal to 4, 2, 7. Again, don't forget your opening and closing square brackets. Now, question number 3. This is a quiz question. Define a list with the strings A, B, and C. Assign the list to a variable called strings. Give it a minute to try. And here's a solution. Type in strings is equal to a list of strings A, B, and C. Go ahead and hit enter. We're going to double check that this list was defined successfully, and indeed it was. Question number 4. Define a list with 1 boolean. Assign the list to a variable called booleans. As a hint, remember booleans are either true or false with capital T's and capital F's. Give it a minute to try. And here's the solution. We're going to define a list called booleans is equal to, and this list will only contain 1 boolean. In this case, we'll say true. Go ahead and hit enter. Once again, we'll check that this list was defined according to the way that we wanted, and there we go. Question number 5. We now want to get the first number in the list numbers. Give it a minute to try. And here's the solution. Go ahead and type in numbers, square bracket of 0. Right? Again, remember that 0 is the index of the first item. So this will fetch the first item in the list of numbers, which in this case is the number 4. So go ahead and hit enter, and there we have 4. Question number 6. This is now a quiz question. Get the third item in the list strings. Give it a minute to try. And now we have strings, and the third item in the list is at index 2. Remember, the first item is at index 0, the second item is at index 1, and the third item is at index 2. So go ahead and type in square bracket 2, enter, and there we get the third item in the list. Question number 7. This is now a practice question. Define a dictionary mapping strings to booleans. Assign Jack to false, Jane to true, and Alex to true. Assign the final dictionary that you get to a variable called name to hungry. Give it a minute to try. Alright, and now we start off by defining the variable. So name to hungry is equal to. And now we're going to define the dictionary. Dictionaries are denoted by a curly brace, and we'll now type in the key, which is Jack, and the value, which is false. Then the key is Jane, and the value is false. The final key here is Alex, and the value is true. Go ahead and add that curly brace. So you'll notice that in this interpreter, the line is wrapped around. If your interpreter is wider than this, or if your screen is wider than this, then you won't see this line wrap around. I didn't hit enter or create a line break. This interpreter wrapped around on its own. Go ahead and hit enter. And we want to double check that this dictionary has what we want. So type in name to hungry, and that is the dictionary that we indeed want. Go ahead, and I'm going to hit clear in the top right. You don't have to do this, but if you do, click into your window and make sure to hit enter so that you see this orange caret once more. Question number 8. Define a dictionary mapping names to numbers. assign these keys to these numbers, and assign the final dictionary to a variable called names to burgers. Take a minute to try this question. Now here's the solution. We're going to define the variable name to burgers is equal to, and here we have a dictionary denoted with a curly brace. We're going to assign the string Emily to 1, the string Jenny to the number 2, the string Neil to the value 3. Go ahead and end this with another curly brace. Hit enter, and we're going to double check this dictionary. And there we go. We have what we want. Question number 9. Here's another practice question. Define a dictionary mapping strings to strings. Assign the dictionary to a variable called names to names. Go ahead and give it a minute. And here's a solution. Go ahead and type out names to names is equal to, and we're going to say Jack to Emily, and then Jenny to Neil, and Alex to Bob. Go ahead and hit enter, and there's our dictionary mapping names to names. Question number 10. This is now a quiz question. Define a dictionary mapping numbers to strings. Assign the dictionary to a variable called age to name. Give it a minute to try. And here's the solution. We're going to type out age to name is equal to, and dictionary with a curly brace, and we're going to come up with arbitrary numbers to strings. Here we're going to say 14 to Bob. We're going to say 15 to Alex, and let's say 20 to Jenny. Go ahead and hit enter, and there's our dictionary. Question number 10. This is now another practice question. Fetch the Boolean corresponding to Jack in the dictionary name to hungry. Give it a minute to try. And here's the solution. Name to hungry, and we want the value corresponding to the key Jack. So we're going to add a square bracket and type in the key. And as we'd expect from the previous set of questions, the value is false. Now, question number 12. This is a quiz question. Fetch number of burgers corresponding to Neil in the dictionary named burgers. Give it a minute to try. All right, now let's type out the solution name to burgers, and burgers, and the key is Neil. So we're going to type in Neil and hit enter, and there we get 3. Question number 13. This is now a practice question. Define a list of dictionaries. Go ahead and give it a shot. Now let's go ahead and type out the solution. Here we're going to have the variable name list to dictionary. List of dictionaries. And here we're going to define dictionary. We'll say A to 1. Because I'm lazy, it's only going to have 1 key and 1 value, and we're going to have just a second dictionary in this list. Go ahead and hit enter. And again, you can create whatever dictionaries you want with whatever keys and values you want. Go ahead and now move on to the next question. Question 14. Here is a quiz question. Define a dictionary mapping strings to lists. Give it a minute to try. And here is a possible solution. We're going to define a dictionary. Let's say string to list is equal to a dictionary mapping a string, let's say Jack, to a list of numbers. And I'm going to be lazy here and just add 1 key and 1 value. Go ahead and hit enter, and there we go, string to list. And once again, let's start off with a temperature check. How are you doing? If this was doable, that's great. If this was barely doable, don't worry. Keep going and you'll build familiarity as we go. Finally, if this wasn't doable, that's also okay. Watch this video and the previous one again. Each time you rewatch, the concept will sink in a little bit more. If you have any questions, definitely don't hesitate to leave a question in the discussion section in the class. If you feel you've mastered this lesson, try to come up with a few extra questions and solutions. Again, leave them in the discussion section of the class and your fellow students will thank you for the extra practice. That's it for Lesson 4's guided exercises.